Welcome to I Have Something to Say, where unfiltered opinions meet raw authenticity. If you're tired of the same old canned answers and crave genuine conversations about real issues, then you've landed in the right spot. So buckle up for a roller coaster of diverse perspectives. Yours truly, Samí Haiman-Marrero, and my co-host, Chris Majocha, will dive headfirst into topics that impact our daily lives. From the boardrooms to the streets, get ready to hear real people cut through the BS and deliver the discussions you've been waiting for. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where Chris and I are always inviting people that are movers and shakers in the community. And today we're very excited to have with us Representative Johanna López. She's in the State House in Florida, and my dear friend Jimmy Torres, who's also a leader in the community, the founder of Boricua, Vota, and just a champion, right, for anything and everything that has to do with social justice, particularly with the Puerto Rican community here in Central Florida and in La Diaspora. And so we invited you both. Thank you for making time, because I know that we're very busy knocking on doors, strategizing, and mobilizing. And we just found it prudent to have this conversation. The sooner the better, because of some concerns that we have, right? In our conversations over cafecito y arroz y habichuela, you know, we've been having these conversations for the last, I want to say 2-3 months already. And I found it beneficial to have you come and join us. And thank you. Thank you for making the time to be here with us today, Johanna and Jimmy.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And I'm here to serve, and just follow or just ask me whatever you want to know.
Y tú, Jimmy, thank you.
Absolutely, this is an opportunity, and every time that we have an opportunity to talk to the people out there on the importance of voting, on the importance of bringing your voice to the front on different issues, as you said. I'm a social justice fighter for many years. I started very young, so I have been doing this for like close to 40 years now, and the other thing that I can share with your audience is that I've been in many states throughout this country, representing Latinos and representing Puerto Ricans in different places, different fights.
Yes, absolutely. And right now I feel that because we are all very involved, including you, Chris, right, in the electoral process, right? We're avid and very committed voters and community organizers, that this frustration, and I'll just speak for myself, and then you can weigh in, Johanna, Jimmy, and Chris, right? With specifically people talking about the Boricua vote, right? The Puerto Rican community and how large we are here in the state of Florida, already surpassing the number of, Cuban Americans, right? That live here in the peninsula, and how we're tagged as not being interested or not being involved in the voting process and the electoral process. And they also, pin Latinos really just in general with this label, right, of being apathetic, not interested, or not committed to representing their voices through the vote here. And so, what are your thoughts about that? Because I get it that they don't, but there's a lot of reasons why, right? They're not as active like in midterm elections or in the primaries, right? But I do feel that we do show up when we have to. And so, Johanna, any insights from your perspective?
Well, I think that most of the time is because culturally speaking, when you come from in Puerto Rico, this is part of our culture, being engaged in politics. But when you move to the United States, that we mostly have elections every year is for them is they don't feel related most of the time. And also the platforms that we're using to communicate to the Puerto Rican community is also another factor. You know, they have, in order for to make Puerto Ricans related, we need to see the content of social media, for example, or newspaper, whatever they're using to engage the Puerto Rican community needs to be in their terminology, in their knowledge, something that they already know. But if we just use translations from the English to the Spanish language, maybe they're not gonna feel related. And sometimes the stories behind those elected officials and how the elected official feel related to the Puerto Rican community, you know, visiting the places that they're visiting, talking to them so they understand what is happening in Puerto Rico, even though it's not part of the local election or the maybe state election, but it's very important that when you talk to somebody in order to make them feel related, that you know something about them. Even, you know, what do you eat? Arroz con habichuela y lechon, whatever. You know, something that activate that respectful conversation, and then, you know, the informal conversation take you to speak about the importance of being registered to vote and to vote in a very wise way, because it's not having people that are from our country to represent us. We also have people that, even though they live here, born here, they don't speak Spanish, but they want to know about our issues, our opportunities, our potential to grow, and they include us in the conversation, they include us in the platform. So it's having those conversations, and conversations in a very respectful way, because most of the time we speak differently, we look differently, and, you know, we're very loud most of the time. I love it, you know, very passionate. And sometimes there's a lot of misunderstanding about, if I am very passionate, I'm an angry lady. No, I'm passionate because I'm very committed, and we love to show how passionate we are. Hear me moving the hands is something that you don't see that often with other cultures, or moving my head or my body. So I think that there's a lot of communication, verbal communications, and also with the body language and the way you approach people. You know, I read people even when they walk to talk to me. You know, you can see eyes, you can see how engaged is the other person. So I think that is more knowing about diversity within the Puerto Rican community, because now I'm talking about the Puerto Ricans that are moving from Puerto Rico to here. But remember, when you move immediately from Puerto Rico to here, you can vote, because we are United States citizens. So I think that even though, you know, we can have more conversation about the diversity within the Puerto Rican community, but maybe Jimmy's gonna take care of that.
There's many problems in just activate the citizenship to vote. So the idea that automatically people get it, it is not that simple. So when you move, Johanna, me, Samí, we grew up in Puerto Rico. So one of the things that you have, Chris, and for the audience, is that the political parties in Puerto Rico occupy the whole space, because it, when you're born in a house, you're already born with a mark. Are you gonna be for this party or for this other party? And when you challenge that in your own house, you have to really educate yourself to, because you will be challenging your father, your mother, your grandparents, etc. But and then you move, and when people try to fight with us that we are not immigrants, and that we are not the diaspora because we're part of the United States, blah blah blah, I think that this is just a whole bunch of malarkey, because the reality is that we move from another country. We have to jump in a plane or a boat. We cannot drive or take the train because it's not such a thing. And we move to a place that have different educational programs, different cultural programs, different food, and more special, different language.
Mhm.
And even though we can have perfect manage of the language, the accent make you somebody that is not from here. I every time I can go to with Samí to a place, and she will get different service from the people because she speaks perfect English and I don't. Doesn't matter how much education, money wise. If I drive a Mercedes and she drive in Honda, that doesn't matter. When you open your mouth, immediately the people that don't like us immediately say, "Okay, I don't like her, but I know that she grew up here, but he just arrived." Uh,
Yeah.
so it's entirely different. So when the new candidate, the Vice President Kamala Harris, was talking about my mother was a 5 foot tall Indian with an accent, I get related to that right away. Right away. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I've experienced that. And I have experienced not only myself, but even her more when I have to deal with my friend Johanna López, who have the courage of accepting a candidacy. Because people need to understand when you accept to run for office, you put your entire life on hold to run. After you win, it's more easier. But to win, you have to put your entire life on hold, take all the risk, and believe me, I believe that Johanna Lopez is one of the most important leaders of the Puerto Rican community in the United States because she took the risk being from Aguadilla, being from the projects, being from being a red hair, a single mother, and all that came out in the campaign. Okay, they treat her very bad, and I sometimes you feel from outside how you protect people that are doing that. So we need to make sure that we mobilize more and more people. I think I talked too much, so I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No,
You're good. Go ahead, Chris.
no, I think obviously of all the points that you're all making really make sense in this fact that there's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, all all the different letters there, but they all really have meaning and purpose to be there. And I think the terminology of saying that people are uninterested or a group of people are uninterested or don't want to come to the table is uh, really a sign of have you invited them to the table to actually have a meaningful conversation. And Samí and you and I doing all the marketing work over the years, it's really in language, in culture, representation. Like Jimmy, you were just talking about seeing somebody that you are like, oh, I can relate, I can connect. So it's having that diversity in both the communities, but in politics as well. But the inclusion and including people into the conversation, make it equitable to really put in the language in a way that people can understand if they're not coming from your political background, and like you said, not just to assume that they understand the political system or how to make a positive change. And then the belonging aspect, when you do all that correctly, then you have people who feel like they belong and want to belong and want to take charge of the community that they are both benefiting from and contributing to. And Johanna, you said it perfectly. It's not just throwing an English advertisement into Google Translate and saying there's our Spanish language advertisement. It's really how do you connect? Do you understand the issues that are affecting that community? And I don't know, it just I think always been an oversight or a lackluster approach, or the phone calls to come out and vote start just a week or two before to get your constituents out, and then nothing after that. And it really has to be a more intentional conversation. But also, in order to do that, until you are invited, the best way to start getting a voice is to make it heard through voting. And the more people who do that, from the Puerto Rican community, from Hispanic community, from everybody in the U.S. to represent their voice, it's that's really what the political system can be. And everybody, if we're all upset about the political system, then the best way to change it is to be active in it. So yeah, that's just my
Yeah, totally. But you hit upon something that, to me, since we're in marketing and communications, right? These are conversations that we've been having the past few months, Jimmy, Johanna, and I here locally, right? So you've missed out on them, Chris. But if you were here, I know you'd be rolling up your sleeves, Papa, and like, yeah, I knew I know you'd be head first. But the conversation has been about exactly that, right? About how do you create first, are you interested in engaging, right? Because I mean, when you look at the numbers here in the state of Florida, right? Or even let's come to Orange County where we live in, right? Where 1 in every 3 people identifies as Latino, right? Or as Hispanic. And then the vast majority are Puerto Rican, right? And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's a lot of people. Okay, 1 in every 3. That's of 1.3 million people that live here in Orange County, the largest county right in Central Florida. Okay, it's mind-boggling to me how, number one, we're still invisible, right? But it's our own fault, right? Because we're not showing a unified front. That's the first. We're infighting. It's like oh, mommy gave me the side eye, so now I'm not talking to her, right? It's that kind of nonsense that's going on in our community. But from the outside, I just feel is that proper investments aren't being made in inviting us to the table too, right? And so not proper investments aren't made into engaging with the people that have the cultural competency to create the messaging to engage with 1/3 of the voting population in Orange County, for example, right? And so it drives me nuts when people are quick to say that we're apathetic, that we're not interested, okay, that we don't show up, right? And it's because there aren't proper investments into explaining to our community in culture and in language with the right professionals, right, that have the culture of, like this group right here, for example, right? But like, we're not unique. There's a whole bunch of other people that can speak in a culturally relevant way to the Venezuelan community, to the Colombian community, to the Ecuadorian community, to the Mexican American community, okay? And I'm just saying that if 1/3 of the budgets were invested to engage with 1/3 of the population, it'd be a whole other different story. So I wonder why. Then why are they not doing it? Right? And I'm not talking about parties. I'm talking about everybody. This applies to business. This applies to community investments. This applies to housing. And you name it, and it applies, right? And so these are the things that are important to bring out, right, in the open and expose them, because they must be remedied. Why? Because the Latino population across the country is growing by leaps and bounds. Okay, you're not going to be able to. I learned this from Jimmy. This line is from Mr. Jimmy Torres. You can very, very soon. Okay, and here in Florida, I give it two more elections, right? Very, very soon, you will not be able to win an election in this country without the Latino vote. Period. Zippo. Done, right? And so we need to educate. And what does that look like? I just feel, and I want to pass the torch to Johanna, right, on this one. It's like the system of voting, right? Just with the basics of, like, in Puerto Rico, every freaking vote counts. Here is through the electoral colleges. And that's like a mind fuck for most people, right? Because it's like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean that not every vote counts? But and so, Johanna, I know you knock on doors and you educate people and all of that on this minutia, right? All of these details. And what's the reaction that you've gotten? You know, from young, from old. I mean, what's the perception about the electoral process, for example?
You know, I also want to taking notes because there's so many questions. But when you said about why the why is very important, because I think that usually both party affiliations and people that are not affiliated, people try to analyze the previous campaign. People just look at the super voters. They don't look at the potential voters by if we do this, if we do that, because it's more work, obviously. So they try to just work what the data already showed instead of being focused on something that is just a risk, you know. But well, you know, you're a businesswoman, you know that when you take a risk, something can happen. You can be extremely successful, you can be in bankruptcy, but you have to take the risk if you want to be successful in life, you know. And I think that that's the why behind. Also, we have to talk about stereotypes, and we have to talk about misunderstanding of cultures, because sometimes with people see the accent or grammatical mistakes, they say, oh, you know, she's not that smart, or she doesn't know that much. And sometimes at the beginning I felt very uncomfortable with my accent, but then I realized that my accent sometimes took me to places, because it's not because maybe believe in me, but maybe because think she doesn't know that much, so I can manipulate the way she think or she decide. But surprise, it's not that I'm dumb. It's that this is not my first language. My first language is Spanish. And I'm going to get there in the way I'm going to explain myself, because something that I love about my Spanish language is that we have a lot of adjective. And if you don't understand something in the way I say it, I'm going to find the way by description what I'm trying to say. And everybody understand. Maybe at the beginning, what do you try to say? Well, let me use another example. And people say, oh, now I got it. You see, so sometimes what we see as a weakness is the strength that I never realized is going to be a strength, because now I'm in this table that I would never dream about it. So I'm learning, I'm growing, and I'm improving my language. Let me tell you, I want to improve my English language, obviously. Okay. And I try to work with my accent, but this is who I am. You know, I born in Puerto Rico, I studied in Puerto Rico, my native language is Spanish, and I learned English in Puerto Rico. I improve it here, and I continue to improve. I have to improve even in my we have to improve in so many ways. If we just say we don't have accents, this is a lie, because depends on which state you live, you're going to have an accent even in your English and native language. But this is another conversation. And with the reaction and the perception that you were talking about, when we talk about, for example, finding signatures for elected officials, when we want to run for a position, as a candidate. Most of the time when I approach Puerto Ricans, they say, no, I'm not, I cannot sign because I did not register to vote. So I take my time. I'm not in this desperation that I have to get all these signatures. No, I provide the space and the individual attention to that person and say, you know what? You're a citizen of the United States. You should register to vote. It's very important. I'm not gonna tell you that you're gonna do it because I need your signature. I'm gonna say it to you because you has a voice that you're not putting in action. So the voice of our Puerto Rican community is more strong when we register to vote. But it's hard for them because they are so drained from the political situation in Puerto Rico that they just want to survive here, find a good job with a good payment. They want to buy that house. They come here for the American dream. So they feel that if they are so engaged and wait for them wasting time in this engagement, they're not going to have enough time to get money, get two jobs, more money, better lifestyle. So it's hard to explain to them because here is very different. Just in my district, we have commissioners 3, 4, 2, 1, but we also have congressmen, 3 different numbers. We also have, so it's very hard for them to understand that they can vote every year. Plus, we have different numbers. School board member too, so it's different, and the perception is too hard. It's too hard. It's like, I'm not gonna do it. And the other perception is, you know what? Because it's very difficult for me, because in Puerto Rico, the two major parties, PNP and PPD, can be Democrats. So we have Democrats that believe in statehood and don't believe in statehood and believe in staying the way they are. So when they come here and they see the colors that represent the majority of the two parties in Puerto Rico, they also got confused. There's another perception. Wait. So are they the PNP or are they the PPD? None of them. You can be a Democrat and you can be PNP and PPD, and we have it over here. So it's once again, the party of the Puerto Rican is the Democratic Party, because in Puerto Rico, even if they're PNP, they can be Democrats, and that is something that confuses them most of the time. So I think that that's the conversation that needs to happen, but also spaces to educate our Puerto Rican community, and also the people that are not Puerto Rican that are investing money in people that they don't know our culture. You are not gonna know the culture of Central Florida if you come from another state and do business here. I'm sorry. You have to live here in order to have that culturally relevant conversation, because here is another level. I work in Chicago, and when I go to during the legislative session to Chicago, it's extremely different from here in Tallahassee in Florida. So it's a different culture. So we have to learn and how to identify those leaders in our state that can mobilize and organize the Puerto Rican community. I think I spoke more than
Another,
Jimmy. So
that's another example of just not managing the language. Okay, so what Johanna explained about the 2 different, 3 different, 4 different political parties in Puerto Rico, their what they do every day, you can say that the whole spectrum of the political parties in Puerto Rico are liberals. They're not conservative in Puerto Rico. Even the people call the MPP the conservative party, they're not. They want food stamp for the people that needs help of buying food. They want to keep their elderly in their house until they die. They want to have child care. Nobody in Puerto Rico will like that someone takes free lunch from the kids. You can be rich in Puerto Rico and you will not say that stupid thing that people say here, because in our culture we take care of each other. But the problem is sometimes is that people that speak Spanish that don't understand that, when we present that idea to the people in power, they think that this is not important. We just have to learn that there's a Democratic Party, a Republican Party, and that's it. And it's not that simple. It's not that simple. So before GPS, people used to define their way where the sun is located. Imagine that you just jump into a JetBlue, get to Florida, and then someone turn the sun off. So you don't know where you're going, because what you believe are the right people are not necessarily the right people, or the wrong people, or who's standing for what. And then the political parties take advantage of that. And I want to say something about that Samí said before on the investment. So, but you know who invests a lot of money in the Latinos? The people that are trying to sell miracle pills that make you hornier, that make you stronger in sex, that save you for whatever, and all those miracle pills. They spend a lot of money in the Latino community. The people that are trying to pour lawyers. That's what you hear all the time.
Mhm.
So the stupid programs, that's what you hear all the time. So they want people to be stupid. They want people not to be educated. And there's a candidate I love the uneducated people. I'm not saying he did say he said I love these uneducated people because they go above for him. So this is the kind of thing that we need to fight. We need to fight for educated people. We need to fight for education and for more understanding of what we do.
Yeah, no, I think we talked right before we started recording the podcast about the documentary I had done about Hurricane Maria and the American Dream. And initially, I wasn't intending to make it about the American Dream or what the viewpoint of a Puerto Rican or somebody who was coming to the continental U.S. for the first time, be it from any Latin American country. And I was just going to talk about the storm in the documentary and what did or didn't happen, politically and from a resources standpoint, preparedness standpoint, etc. But really, what I found was, and Jimmy, you said it best with, the Puerto Rican people really take care of each other. It's really a community aspect, and with the family that I followed to Florida, and then in their assimilation process over a little over a year, all they were trying to do was get work, start a business, be able to employ people. And in Central Florida, they were kind of hitting roadblocks everywhere they turned, with regard to just people not really giving them the time of day, or helping them get through that business registration process, etc. So they actually went and moved to Tampa so that they could get through that political system. But it just kind of goes to show, and now they have a successful food truck and employ several people, and are extremely good contributors to this economy and to the society. But it just goes to show, like, the fact that there were so many roadblocks, and you said it's like turning the sun off. There's a different way of working with people, or doing having a conversation about a contract, or to agree on something. It's there's just different protocols, even with driving, or what have you, in the school systems. And there's a lot of opportunity, I think, as you're all saying, in kind of creating that equitable roadmap to say, if we provide the education, the resources to, let people understand the political system when they first get here, et cetera, or even just reaching out to the communities. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of absurd that 1/3 of a population is not targeted in a meaningful way. And I don't mean targeted like but reached out to really understand what their voice is. And I don't know, it just, from my understanding, from my experience with the Puerto Rican people, having gone to Puerto Rico, and coming here, and then understanding that American dream part, it really is about wanting to do better, wanting to work, wanting to provide, wanting to succeed, just like anybody else who, we all came from different places to get to America to begin with. And it's just, at a different stage of that. There's just not the history here, but it's there just needs to be more done, from as a white person, as a gringo, the person who kind of has that white privilege here in America, and to have seen kind of inside really the Puerto Rican community, been embraced by the Puerto Rican community, and also having experienced the political side of the historical aspect. It's just there's a big disconnect and a conversation that needs to be had. And as a communications marketing person, it's really just you have to understand who your client is if you want to best serve them. And it's the same thing with voting. But I don't know. I just wanted to kind of say from my personal experience that it is not that lackadaisical lack of interests. It's really that lack of invitation to say, what are you dealing with, and what do you need in this community? How can we all work together?
Yeah, and what irks me really is that that it's always an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
I think the engagement eventually does happen, but it's temporary. It's sporadic. It's superficial. I'm using all these adjectives. You see, Johanna, there are a lot of adjectives in English too that are very useful. Okay, very, very useful. It's lackluster. It's I feel just like a band-aid, right? To put on all of the adversity and all of the situations that the community faces, and all the barriers really to engage in the electoral process. That includes, right, just our socioeconomic situation not being addressed, right? And so then it's like, how in the world do you want me to stop for a moment, right, and go to vote for you when I don't know if I'm going to be able to make my rent. I'm trying to buy a house and I can't get a loan. I don't know where to get ESOL classes for free. I'm working 2-3 jobs and my relationship is being affected, and I'm at the brink of a divorce, and now my kids are suffering because of that too, because the economic stress affects the whole family, right? My kids are getting bullied at school. I mean, I could go on and on. I live in a food desert. The transportation sucks, and I don't have enough money to buy a car. I mean, should we go on? I mean, so then how in the world, right, am I going to get to the polling site, right, and cast my vote if there are all these other things that I have to contend with, and the powers that be are not remedying them, right? Go ahead, Jimmy.
On top of that, they call you Hispanic and they call you minority, and you don't believe that you're
Yes.
Hispanic or you're minority. So because it takes years of understanding to believe that you are a minority, because it doesn't make any sense. It's like I was in a meeting, Chris, one day, and the people that I work with, the union, they start calling people brown people and black people and brown people, and a Cuban women raised her hand and said, "And what am I?" And the woman said, "You're brown," and she said, "No, I'm not. I'm not brown." So this thing that was created by other people are imposing to you, and then you're supposed to, of course I understand that I'm a people of color. No, you don't. We just,
right.
I was from Bayamon yesterday with my other people from my town, and now I am minority. I'm people of color. I'm brown. You know, it's a whole bunch of things that you have to learn right away.
And it's part of the challenge, right? And so when people don't understand all of these lived experiences, all of these differences, all of these nuances, right, that make communication different or maybe challenging, right, then you're not going to be able to connect. And then if on top of that, you're just not interested, right, for whatever reason, or sometimes I'm of the belief that it's intentional, quite frankly, right? Because could you imagine, okay, if in the state of Florida, the whole state, it's 1 of every 4 people identifies as Latino, that investments were made to engage Latino voters, Latino candidates, Latino, leaders in the community to be really involved and explaining all of this and really digesting it, right, and educating and and mitigating the language barriers, and really like they promote all the sex pills and right for stamina and everything. Well, the same thing, right? To promote, right, engagement, civic engagement. That would equate, right? Because we're marketers, right, Chris? Right? That would equate to then drawing 1/3, right, of voters of Latinos to come out and vote. It would mean to draw 1/3 candidates to run for office, so that way we would have 1/3 of the representatives in Tallahassee identifying as Boricuas and Latinos. But I don't know. I don't think that either party wants that. to go down, right? That the higher you get, I'm sorry to say it, right? I don't think, because if proper investments are made for it to be equitable, that means equity means that 1/3 of the state house and the state senate should be Latino. Period. No, that's it. That is what we're supposed to be, right? That's what we're preaching here. And so I'm hoping that when we have these honest conversations that feel uncomfortable, that we can get closer to, what people are preaching, right? And so any closing comments here, Johanna and Jimmy, Chris?
I just want to say that, before you make any conclusions about any culture, just try to meet them. Just try to meet different. And also, we have, for one bad experience or one good experience, that doesn't mean anything. We need more. That's why we do the networking, going to places that we see the diversity on different demographics. So we know, different economical positions. I have great relationship with my mom. Used to clean houses for a living, so I love my janitors. So I always have, great conversations with them. And we have a lot of Latinos that are lawyers doing jobs as janitors or housekeeping, because here they don't, number one, they don't speak the language, and number two, they cannot transfer their license. So just have that experience, and try to learn more. We have a lot of platform that we can read and learn more, so we can be more relevant when we speak to people, instead of judging and maintaining the stereotypes of different demographics.
Well, my last invitation to people today, and I hope that this come into a clip. So if 1/3 are this, and we should be 1/3 of the judges, we should be 1/3 of the managers, we should be 1/3 of the board of directors, and especially this is the big problem. We should be 1/3 of the budget, and this is what really things get complicated, because people can really love your flag, come into the parade, march with you, and say, "Boricua, we love you. Que viva Puerto Rico!" And then, when you go to your seat, then you don't assign any money to the districts that the Puerto Ricans are living or the Latinos are living. So this is exactly the fight. The fight is about money. I have many friends, and the people that change history is the people that decide. This is not about ideology. This is not about who was wrong and who was right. It was about money. Countries invade other countries to take their money, their resources, not because they don't like them. It's because they have something that they need. I need your land. I need your people. I need your that kind of thing. So a little bit of my professor history come out every time that I have this opportunity. So thank you for the invitation, Sammy and Chris, and I'm very thrilled to be here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Johanna. Thank you, Jimmy, for joining us on the podcast. And I think my closing words are, Jimmy, you're absolutely right. There are way too many labels, I think, in our society, of black, brown, whatever you want to go. Really, it's we're all people, at the most basic level. And when you look at another human across a table, you should have the decency to understand that person, and give them the time of day to let them understand you as well. And I would say, if you are gonna label a Puerto Rican, try their food, because it's amazing. If you want to go to a place that is, you can get the mountains, you can get the ocean, you can get, the city life, you can get all these amazing places in one little island. Label them for that. If you're gonna, if you want to be embraced when you walk in the door, get hugs and everybody welcomes you like you are already family. That's what I would label a Puerto Rican person as. And I think the more people who get to know that, and that's, what I tried to do with my documentary, is to create that introduction, to let people in to the life of somebody else that, yes, may look or sound or different or not have the same background or experiences as you, but to understand that that is an opportunity to improve. Like, diversity is the color of life. It's what makes things interesting. And again, just going back to the marketing brain, if there is a large target audience that has not been tapped into, and you want to build your brand or your political campaign or your get support, my mind is you market to that population, those potential buyers of interest. And when you listen to your customers and adjust your ideology and your ways of doing business to match what they need, that's how you become successful in business. And I'm just using this business terminology because as in a capitalist society, that's what everybody bases everything off of. So that's like the definite or the the example. But really, there is a big opportunity here. And it's not just the political opportunity. It's not just the business opportunity to engage with the Puerto Rican people or Latino voters in general. It is the opportunity to make your life more interesting, your community more interesting, because, again, I've very happy to say that I have stepped into the Puerto Rican community, introduced myself and been embraced. And I would encourage our listeners to experience that as well.
Thank you so much. Preach, Papa, preach.
Can we do your clip compared to what Donald Trump said coming down the escalators? Okay, this is what he think about people that look like me, and this is what Chris have experienced.
Exactly.
Just to make sure that people understand the big differences.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to end by thanking you both for joining Chris and I. And I just want to, just drop some data because like in business, right? I agree with you, Chris. Sometimes you just have to speak business, right?
Yep.
Because in this society, it's like the bottom line. And the bottom line is that every 30 seconds, a Latino youth in this country turns 18 years old and is eligible to vote. That equates 1 million new Latino voters every year, I heard, right? And so I know that back in 2016, I asked Scott, my husband, our creative director, to design a logo to represent the new party, the Latino party, and we used a lion. Why a lion? Because we are a silent beast that the minute that we wake the hell up, we're going to roar. We're going to roar and roar big time. And whoever engages with us properly is going to have familia for life because that's how we roll also. Anyway, thank you so much. I think this was an epic conversation, the first, I hope, of many. And so let's go. Let's go. Let's knock on those doors. Let's do more programming. We're together doing a radio show on Saturday mornings, Jimmy, Johanna, and I here locally, spearheaded by Red de Acción Boricua y Latina with Jimmy Torres. And Johanna and I are just there for fun, for shits and giggles. And it's just fantastic to collaborate with all of you. I love you. Okay, so thank you so much. Y buenas noches.
This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. Thank you for tuning in, and tell your friends to find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to show up and speak up.